Howdy, welcome to part 2 of chapter 8. So there are different strategies that firms can use when pursuing international opportunities. And we can view these at both the business level and at the corporate level. So at the business level, firms select the same generic strategies that they might use in their domestic market: cost leadership, differentiation, focused strategies, or integrated cost leadership differentiation. Now, a firm does not necessarily have to use the same business level strategy in every country that it goes into. It may adapt based on how its products are perceived in a local market. For example, Payless shoes were viewed as more of a differentiated product in Latin America compared to the cost leadership perception and strategy used in the United States. So they would price accordingly. And they could also adjust operations according to different strategies that might be used. But at the corporate level, there are different strategies that might be used, and these include multi-domestic, global, and transnational. And we'll get to those in a little more detail later on. So when we look at business level strategy, there are some different factors to consider. So one is factors of production. Are there advantages to be gained in labor, land, natural resources, capital, or infrastructure from one place to another? There are some countries that can provide the infrastructure for a firm to operate where other countries would not provide that at all. An example of an industry that has become very common in a particular international location would be telecommunications in India. This is a place where there is lower cost labor. There are advantages related to language, and also the infrastructure exists that is necessary for firms to be able to provide that type of a service. We also may look at basic factors such as natural and labor resources, just the very simple things, and then advanced factors such as digital communication systems and an educated workforce. This combination of basic and advanced factors would lead call centers to be located in a place like India, where you have a level of education, you have the digital systems combined with these basic factors of lower cost labor to provide benefits that can support a business level strategy. We may look at demand conditions, characterized by the nature and size of buyers' needs in the home market for the industry's goods or services. Consider the size of the market segment that can lead to scale-efficient facilities. Efficiency can then lead to domination of the industry in other countries, and specialized demand may create opportunities beyond national boundaries. Another consideration would be related and supporting industries. Things like support and design, distribution, or related industries such as suppliers and buyers that might be located near potential international operations. We'll also look at things like the pattern of strategy, structure, and rivalry among firms. We'll consider common technical training among different competitors or competing firms. This also may provide a ready workforce if you're able to hire people working in the industry that already have the experience to be effective new employees for you. We'll consider methodological, product, and process improvement, and also cooperative and competitive systems. So when we look at these determinants of national advantage, we will consider factors of production, demand conditions, related and supporting industries, and firm strategy, structure, and rivalry. But this then needs to also be overlaid over the institutions and the environment of the country itself. For example, there are different political systems. Some are more stable than others. And these political systems lead to the individuals that may be determining the laws. And this comes to the formal institutions fitting inside the political system, where we have laws that vary, tax laws, regulations that might be different, and there might be certain regulations that are more or less attractive to different companies. Then finally, within these formal institutions or the regulatory environment, we have the informal institutions, the culture. How do people get along? How do business operations happen? What about the level of communication? What are the customs to be considered? Another thing to be considered here with the informal institutions might be something like the informal economy. In some countries, a lot of businesses are unregulated. That's simply the way it's done, particularly in underdeveloped countries. We may also look at a lot of different ways that companies and individuals interact that are important for people to understand when pursuing international business opportunities. Then we'll look here at more at the international corporate level strategies based at least partially on a firm's international business level strategy. What are you trying to accomplish and how are you trying to accomplish that? This may influence how you ultimately enter and operate in a company or in a different country. So this focuses on the scope of a firm's operations, is required when the firm operates in multiple industries that are located in multiple countries, and is guided by the headquarters unit. However, business or country level managers may have substantial strategic input depending on the type of international corporate level strategy that the firm uses. So this comes back to the three international corporate level strategies, which are multi-domestic, global, and transnational. The three international corporate level strategies vary in terms of two dimensions. So these are the two questions that you need to answer when determining an international corporate level strategy. One is, how important is global integration? How important is economies of scale and doing things the same from one place to another? The other question is the need for local responsiveness. The way that you would sell certain items might be very different in Costa Rica compared to what it would be in Ireland. In some areas or some industries, it might not be all that different. So you need to answer that question. So look at we'll first talk about a multi-domestic strategy. So this is one where strategy and operating decisions are decentralized to strategic business units in each country. Products and services are tailored to local markets. Business units in one country are independent of each other, and this assumes that markets differ by country or regions. The focus here is on competition within each market. What do you have to do? How much do you need to respond to each individual market in order to be competitive? So this might be a prominent strategy among European firms due to broad variety of cultures and markets in Europe. Next, we will look at a global strategy. So this is a strategy in which products are standardized across national markets. Business level strategic decisions are centralized in the home office, and strategic business units are assumed to be interdependent. The emphasis here is economies of scale or efficiency, but this comes at a cost in that it may lack responsiveness to local market conditions. This requires resource sharing and coordination across borders is hard to manage, and a lot of work must be done from the corporate office, which is essentially leading a global corporate level strategy. And then we come to the transnational strategy, which seeks to achieve both global efficiency and local responsiveness. It's difficult to achieve because of the requirement to simultaneously have strong control and coordination for efficiency across all or many countries, but also provide decentralization to achieve local market responsiveness. The pursuit of organizational learning to achieve competitive advantage is also important in order to properly adapt and change and learn. So this is simply a diagram of these three different options. So if you have a high need for global integration, but a low need for global responsiveness, you might look at a global strategy. If you have a high need for local responsiveness, but a low need for global integration, you could look at a multi-domestic strategy. If your need for both global integration and local responsiveness is high, this would lead you to pursuing the transnational strategy, which is more complex and difficult, but is able to focus on both of these dimensions. So question number 2, based on the two companies that you identified earlier, which international corporate level strategy do you think they are using, and what evidence would support your assertion?